In this church, behind these doors, are a congregation of people who don't realize their soon-to-be fate, celebrating and rejoicing in a newly built church that was made just for them, a symbol of progress and achievement for them, Black people, who was told by society that they didn't matter in this world. It's heartbreaking to know that this symbol of great achievement for the unappreciated would too fail them. In only a short while, the people inside this building will succumb to one of the most tragic incidents that's ever happened in Black America. But the question is, was it an accident? It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a night of unity and spiritual uplift for Birmingham's Black community in 1902. Shiloh Baptist Church, a beacon of faith in the heart of Alabama, was packed with more than 3,000 worshipers. Spectators eager to hear Booker T. Washington began arriving hours ahead of time, and the church quickly filled to capacity, with every seat taken long before the speaker even appeared. Despite the overcrowding, people continued to squeeze into the building, cramming the aisles and stairways far beyond safe limits. He arrived, and all eyes were turned to one man, Booker T. Washington, a powerful voice in the fight for Black progress during a dark era of segregation. But as the church filled with anticipation, the air also grew heavy. Too many bodies crammed into the small space. Too much hope pressing against the very walls of this sacred building. It was a place of sanctuary, but also of suffocation. As Washington concluded his speech, a dispute broke out between two men over a seat on the stage. A woman nearby, witnessing the altercation, shouted, "Fight!" In the packed and chaotic sanctuary, many misheard her cry as "Fire!" And then it happened. Panic swept through the crowd, especially those near the rear of the church, who rushed toward the exits. As people from the main floor and the balcony pushed toward the narrow doors, the mass of bodies quickly blocked the entrances, turning the scramble into a deadly crush. The exits were too small, the church too crowded. Within seconds, the joyful gathering turned into a human flood, surging, crushing, desperate to escape the unseen threat. Men, women, and children, all scrambling toward a narrow doorway. But for many, that door would remain just out of reach. By the time the panic subsided, the reality of the tragedy was even darker than the fear of fire. 115 lives were lost, crushed in the frantic stampede. Mothers clutched children who would never breathe again. Husbands fought through the crowd, only to find their wives beneath the weight of dozens of bodies. They were not burned by fire. They were consumed by fear. But was it just panic, just an accident, or something more? The church, large and newly constructed, stood as a symbol of hope in a world weighed down by hate. But on that night, it became something else. A tomb. Whispers from that night suggest an energy that clung to the walls of Shiloh Baptist Church, a tension that lingered long before that tragic cry of fire echoed. Some say the fear that filled the room wasn't born in that moment, but had been waiting for the right spark. It is said that 115 souls were lost that night. 115 people suddenly caught between life and death, suffocated not by smoke, but by the crush of human bodies. A tragedy like this doesn't simply fade away. Their memories linger, haunting the grounds perhaps, still seeking peace. The number 115 has its own eerie significance. Some believe it represents a crossing point where the physical and spiritual worlds collide. Could the stampede have been a cruel twist of fate, or was it something darker, something otherworldly? Doesn't seem that way. It seemed to be all a misunderstanding over a petty argument. After the chaos and tragedy of that day, reflecting on the disaster, Booker T. Washington later recalled what actually happened. He said, "I had just finished my lecture on industry, and the choir had begun to sing when a woman behind me screamed. A choir member called out, 'Quiet!' But those in the gallery heard it as fire. That miscommunication triggered the stampede. Upon investigation, it was found that a man from Birmingham had accidentally stepped on the toes of a Baltimore delegate named Ballou. Baloo, offended, made a gesture as if reaching for a weapon, which caused the woman to scream. One mistaken word. 115 souls lost forever. Could that be why they say, be careful with the words that come from your mouth? The tongue can kill. Today, Shiloh Baptist Church stands rebuilt and its doors remain open, but the air inside still carries the weight of that night, September 19th, 1902. For some, the tragedy has been buried beneath the church's rebirth, but for others, it remains palpable, just below the surface. As the congregation gathers every Sunday, do they feel it? Do they sense the lingering spirits of the 115 souls lost to a stampede driven by fear? One cry of fire, one moment of chaos, turned a house of worship into a house of mourning. The 115 souls may never find rest, forever bound to that fateful night when a spark of fear set off a chain reaction of death. In a blink, a sanctuary became a graveyard. And the question that still haunts Shiloh Baptist Church is this: was it simply an accident, or was something darker hiding in the flames of that night? Some flames are never seen, and some tragedies are never truly forgotten. Hold on, just a quick second. I have to make a correction. The Shiloh Baptist Church has not, in fact, been rebuilt. But there is a Greater Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Birmingham that has grown significantly since moving to a new campus in West End. Sorry for the misinformation.